Well, before we start the show, Russ, we got a chance to watch the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions on Saturday, and for I'm a big ELO fan, so that was special. And Jeff Lynne is in his 60s, and he still can really perform. He's still great.
I haven't watched that part of it yet. It's on my DVR. I haven't even watched more than half of it yet, but I did see the Yes stuff previously because someone periscoped it to me. So, but it's good. I mean, I like ELO. I know some people, it's weird. They have a weird take because I guess they feel like they weren't cool. But I always thought Jeff Lynne was pretty great as a musician.
To specify why they're cool, if the Beatles thought that they were cool, they're cool. And the introduction for Jeff Lynne and ELO was Danny Harrison, was George Harrison's son.
Okay.
And Jeff Lynne and George Harrison were great friends, obviously traveling Wilburys and stuff like that, but they going even further back than that. So that was fantastic. And yes, and we won't go on along with this, but
look, David Letterman introducing Pearl Jam was amazing.
Yeah, it was bizarre though. It was really strange. I didn't get the connection until he explained it, and then he. I always thought Eddie Vedder was just like a cool guy, and that letter that Letterman read about, him giving a guitar to his son was just, can you imagine being, first of all, imagine being David Letterman's son, and second of all, imagine getting a letter from Eddie Vedder saying, "I'll send you a real guitar." Come on, it's just too
great. It was just great to see Dave again.
Yeah, although he does look like he looks like a
bomber, but it's okay.
Yeah, he looks like Ted Kaczynski. Yeah. Anyway, one other thing, and I just remember this because I don't know who they were playing in the series that particular year, but if you remember, today is the 6th anniversary of the U.S. Special Forces going in and getting Bin Laden in Abbottabad, Pakistan. And I remember the thing I remember the most about that were the fans coming out of a Capitals game and them heading to the White House and chanting USA and waving flags. That was the thing I remember the most about that night. Obviously watching the speech and the announcement and finding out the details later on. But it always struck me as like they were fans at a hockey game, and when they got out, they found out via social media and then went to the White House, because I don't know how far away the White House was.
They still do that, but now they do it with pitchforks.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a sort of different reaction, but so it's the 6th anniversary of that, so I just want to bring that up. Anyway, hello, Hockey World. Today is Monday, May the 1st, 2017.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. Well, we have 4 what used to be referred to as quarterfinal series. Now I believe they're called Eastern Conference and Western Conference semifinals. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the games yesterday, Russ. The first one being Nashville and the St. Louis Blues. Nashville wins, goes up 2-1 in the series. Honestly, it's surprising that it wasn't 3-0. That game that St. Louis came back in St. Louis, game 2. I was watching that game off and on, and they were up 2-1. I think midway through the third period, and then St. Louis rallied. Tarasenko scores. I wasn't really impressed by St. Louis yesterday, and to me, Nashville has fairly dominated the series.
Yeah, I go back to saying that when I said that Nashville would win this series based on their blue line, I think that's going to be the difference. Ellis had another nice goal. I think it's going to be their blue line that's going to be the difference, because they're getting more production out of their blue line. St. Louis has a great blue line, right? But they're not giving offensive production. They're just good defensively now. Once they lost Shattenkirk, they did lose a dimension to their blue line.
Yeah, and of the 3 of them, I think Parayko could be the most gifted offensively. And he took that hit from Vern Fiddler on the knee. He came back in the game, but that had to throw a bit of a scare into the Blues in terms of, if they go down him, then your number 3 defenseman is probably Carl Gunnarsson, and that's a big step down.
Oh yeah.
But I have to bring this up
George
just because
Schmaltz, I think, could be that guy, but he's clearly,
Yeah.
not at the point in his career where he can be yet.
I have to bring this up just because it's sort of ancillary to the series, but it's been in the mix, is this commentary about PK Subban from Mike Milbury during the game about, or, in one of the intermissions where Subban was seen prior to the game, with the pregame ritual, and he was sort of dancing around, and Milbury called him a clown. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go down the road of making fun of Mike Milbury. Enough people do that, but honestly, players get into their routine and get into games in different ways. Why is somebody getting into the music such a big deal?
I'll tell you why. Because he's from an era that didn't do anything but play hockey. Now, was it boring? No. But they just, the world was different, and he's clearly just showing his age by basically saying somebody can't have fun. Now, I give tremendous marks to Jeremy Roenick, who showed him dancing on the ice in pregame warmups and having fun, and he got positive reviews from that, and people, even from the old-time hockey, I forget who it was that reached out to him and said that was fun, keep up the good work. And Roenick said, yeah, I was just loosening up and keeping my teammates loose, and that's all PK Subban's doing. There's nothing but love in PK Subban's heart, and for some reason, people get the opposite reaction, and I don't get it. I really don't get it, but Milbury was just like a staunchy old guy when he said that.
I mean, I get the feeling that it's, Milbury is associated with the Bruins, and Subban is still, he's got the blue, blanc, and rouge coursing through his veins, even though he's playing for Nashville. So I have a feeling that maybe there's that underlying level of animosity there, but who knows? All I know is that, Milbury seemed like a bit of an old fuddy-duddy when it came to those comments. And I have a 5 at the beginning of my name, and I'm not that old and fuddy-duddy, so what the hell?
Yep.
But just looking at that series, though, to me, Jake Allen has played average as compared to the way he played in the first round. Right. And that was the key. If they were going to win that series, Jake Allen was going to have to play like he did against Minnesota, and he's playing like Jake Allen this series. Yeah,
that's a big difference. I think Laviolette's winning the coaching battle too. I think that. Look, Nashville's without Fiala. It's a pretty good player that they're down too, and they're not really missing a beat. I give him full credit. I think that Pekka Rinne's been up to the challenge, and St. Louis is in trouble. They're not in big trouble, but they're in trouble.
Now, the other game last night, which I said was a must-win for the Ducks after losing the first 2 in Anaheim. Well, the Ducks came out pretty quickly, and I turned the game on about a minute and a half into the first, and they had already scored a goal to make it 1-0. And I only found out this morning that it was a set play. It was some sort of not a trick play, but where
Ricardo like a backdoor play from basketball.
Yeah, and it was, and apparently it was a Randy Carlyle designed play. It was really, it worked. It probably won't work again because they'll be expecting it. But to me, that's, I'm a Randy Carlyle fan. I would like to see Randy Carlyle win in Anaheim because of the reputation that he got from some of the, what I call the analytics crowd, that he was behind the times. I don't think he's behind the times. I think his team that he played in Toronto just sucked. So, and they just didn't have the talent conducive to fit with Randy Carlyle's style of coaching. And, now they went down 2-0 to Edmonton, a faster, arguably more skilled team at home. And last night they scored 3 goals in the first period. But this is the thing, Russ, in this playoffs, you can see, even if you're up 3-0, even if you're up 2-0, you're not home and cooled out. They, that goal by Draisaitl late in the first period, you knew that Edmonton was going to come back, and within the first half of the second period, it was tied 3-3, and only then did Anaheim sort of wake up again and start scoring and start playing the right way.
True. Gibson made some massive saves. That was a big deal. Talbot's not been exactly as sharp as he once was. We talked about that. I think the mileage is piling up on him. McDavid had a goal that everybody should see, where he just basically changed direction and shot one past Gibson that I don't think any goalie could have stopped. I mean, it was really interesting. I thought that Silverberg was fantastic. He had a couple goals. It was a game where Anaheim kept losing the lead, but they kept gaining it back. And then when they finally got it back, they finally didn't lose it. I don't think it was a function of trying to sit on the lead this time either. I think it was a function of Edmonton just being able to come back.
Yeah, the Wagner goal that made it 4-3 was, I mean, obviously it sort of broke the momentum there because, Edmonton gets the tying goal, McDavid scores. They're all, the Rogers center in Edmonton was rocking. Yep. And then Wagner comes down, and that was a weak Talbot goal. It went off, I think, the inside of his blocker and past him. And
it went the inside of the blocker and down and in. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the. I mean, that's the goal that Grant Fuhr never let in. Remember, Grant Fuhr would let in 5 goals, but the goal at the wrong time was the goal that he never let in, and that was the goal at the wrong time for Edmonton. So Anaheim pulls away, wins 6-3. Series now 2-1. The one thing that I saw a little bit last night was, the guys like Lucic and Cassian trying to goad guys like Perry and a young defenseman and Josh Manson into stupid penalties, and Anaheim was disciplined enough to not do that. Patrick Maroon too. That's the
thing. Yeah, Maroon did get a goal, right? I mean, I believe he did. Here's the thing, though. I saw that Lucic was trying to start up with Hampus Lindholm, and Lindholm wanted no part of it. Lucic was basically getting schooled in this game. He was getting covered. He couldn't get away. He doesn't have enough foot speed sometimes. So what did he try and do? He tried to intimidate him, and Lindholm was just laughing and walking away, and he was like pushing his face. He was trying to get a penalty in the worst possible way, and Lindholm didn't bite. And I thought that was huge because Lindholm's already, 3 years into it? And so, you know what? That's a veteran move for still a young defenseman, and it just shows that this is the problem with Milan Lucic. He doesn't have the foot speed. He has to be aggressive. He has to get you to take dumb penalties, and he has to get to the net. And he hasn't been all that effective this series.
Yeah, I mean, for him to be able to get to the net, he has to have the speed to cut through the Anaheim defense and get to the net. And I don't know whether he has that anymore. But I think the return of Vatanen and the return of Fowler at the start of the series were big keys for Anaheim.
Yes.
But to me, I think the biggest key is Gibson. I mean, yes, in the second half of that game, after it was tied 3-3, he made a few big saves to keep them ahead. But at least one of the 3 Edmonton goals I thought should have been stopped. So I'm just saying this. I don't know the level of confidence that Randy Carlyle has in John Gibson. At 3-3, I thought there was a chance that Bernier was going to be in. He stuck with him, and he ended up winning the game, and he ended up playing well. But Anaheim is in desperate straits right now. They've got to win Game 4. If they go down 3-1, it's going to be tough to finish them off, but I mean, it would give Edmonton a heck of an advantage. I just think that Gibson he's not on thin ice, but I think that Randy will be willing to make that momentum changer. If
I don't think so. I disagree. I think he knows who his goalie is. I think people are jumping to the conclusion that just because he played for him before, that this is the case. I don't know about that. Lucic, by the way, has 3 points in 9 games. And so, he could be doing better.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that they switched their lines at the end of the first period, and I think Eberle was on the line with McDavid. They were saying, I mean, there's they may move Draisaitl back to that line. It's possible, but I mean, we'll see. I think that's
you have to wonder now: will a veteran team like Anaheim be able to sort of school Edmonton while they had still had the advantage in this series? That's the storyline now.
Yeah. Going back to Saturday's games, and we'll start with the one that puzzled me the most. The Rangers and Ottawa. I mean, First of all, the Rangers jump out. They have a 5-3 lead late in the third. Late meaning like 3.5 minutes left to go in the third period, and the Jean-Gabriel Pageau show takes over. And in double overtime, he scores his fourth goal of the game to give the Sens a 6-5 win and a 2-0 lead in the series. I mean, Russ, I thought the Rangers up to a point were dominating this game, and then I just don't know what happened. First of all, Lundqvist, as strong as he was in game one, there were a couple goals that should have been stopped.
Yeah, but I tell people there's always a couple. But he wasn't the reason they lost.
No.
I'm going to pin the loss on Alain Vigneault because for the third period, most of that period, he sat the Lindbergh line. Lindbergh, Buchnevich. These guys did not play. And they didn't play for long stretches. Then all of a sudden you need them in overtime, and it's like, this is a problem. You can't just sit guys for long stretches when the other team's rolling 4 the whole time. He tired out his guys. Kreider was getting way too many shifts.
Which goes completely against what they did in Game 6 against Montreal. Their advantage was that they rolled 4 lines, and the fast Lindbergh line is a good defensive line. So that I don't get that. Plus, the defensive pairing of Holden with Mark Stahl. I don't know. I've now come over to your side of the fence when it comes to Holden. I know that Kevin Kline had a bad year this year, and he probably had lost the confidence of Alain Vigneault, but at least he could play a bottom pairing role and maybe move Brady up in the second pair.
My biggest problem is you look at Nick Holden and you say, why are you pinching in double overtime, early in double overtime? Why are you pinching? Don't pinch. That is not the time to pinch. That is the time to stay back and play normal hockey. And he did. He pinched. He gives up the goal. Like, he should not be playing this next game. Here's time on the ice stuff. So Lindbergh played 5 minutes that game, 5:07.
The entire game?
Entire game. So he got benched for most of the game. Buchnevich, same thing, 5:46. And it was mainly those two because Faust, they moved fast to other lines. So, but it was those two.
They went 10 forwards.
Yeah, and it was dumb. I mean, Buchnevich could really be a difference maker, but you can't if you play 5:47. I mean, that's really the end of the day, and that's what they did, and it came back and it haunted them. And just a dumb move. Holden's got to be out of this game. I would put anybody in over him. I would even put Clendening in over Holden. That's how bad I think. And Holden, I think, is killing Stahl, too. Not that Stahl has been great or anything close to good, but Holden's been killing him, too. He just needs to be removed from the equation if they want to win this game. Now, this is the problem for the Rangers, and we talked about it Friday night on Off the Post. I was worried that if they lost this game, they'd be forced to have to win at the Garden, the first game. Now, they've gotten the monkey off their back a little bit at the Garden, but they're not showing that they're comfortable yet there and can start to really win there. They have to win this game. They absolutely have to win this game. Like, this is no question. It's a must win. They don't win this game, I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, the series is over with. They lose this game. They go down 3-0. I mean, what is it, 3 times in 75 years that teams have come back from 3-0. So yeah, I mean, but
changes have to be made. I mean, good changes. Again, Rangers power play still stinks. I mean, I'll get the number of what it was last game.
But the question is, are the changes going to be, taking out Buchnevich and putting in Tanner Glass? I mean, that's the wrong kind of change.
Put in Brandon Peary, who is an absolute stud on the power play. He has not gotten any time here, and this is a guy who is known to be a power play shark. Let's see if I can get your power play real quick. I mean, it's just, I don't – these are the things I don't understand. I mean, you have to, at some point, make this change because the power play is still suffering. All right, in this game, they were 0 for 4. So that means in the series, there's something like 2 for 21. Does that sound about right?
For the playoffs, yeah, something like that.
In the playoffs, yeah. I mean, you got to make a change on that. That is the definition of insanity right there.
Yeah, and now the game 3 of the series doesn't go until tomorrow, and the report out of New York is that Erik Karlsson did not practice today. Now that could just simply be, he'll skate for the morning skate, and they just gave him a day off with his foot injury. But that's something to watch for. If Carlson is out, I mean, if this is one of these deals,
I heard
where
he's not going to be out. I heard that he is going to play, and since MacArthur skated today, there's a chance he's going to play.
Right. I was going to basically say, it could be a situation where, they're up 2-0. Could they, if he was hurt, could they give him a game off and give him a couple days of recuperation time? But yeah, I think more than likely he's, as we know, it's
the worst part about this game for the Rangers is you should never lose a game where you get 2 shorthanded goals.
Yeah. And Michael Grabner scoring on a breakaway. It's like, that's like an eclipse.
Yep.
Okay, the other game, the one that will go tonight, Game 3 in Pittsburgh. People who pick the Caps are looking bad right now, because the fear that the Penguins had the Caps number, which we've pretty much known over the years, you thought that the Caps, with a team that is remarkably deep and remarkably talented, would finally overcome Pittsburgh without Letang, without Matt Murray. No, it's just not happening. Marc-Andre Fleury is playing as good as Murray did last year.
Yeah, there's no loss there.
There's no loss there, and no matter what the Capitals do, this for the second straight game, the Capitals put remarkable pressure on the Penguins in the first period, dominate the shots on goal.
Actually, I don't know if this came out of the team or this came just out of the universe, but everybody was saying that was their best period ever, and they didn't in this playoffs against Pittsburgh, and they didn't score a goal.
And they didn't score, and that's the thing. It's like, and then on a power play, Kevin Shattenkirk fails to keep the puck in. Matt Cullen beats him to the puck, and he slips it through Braden Holtby's pads, and that was the ball game. I mean, the final score ended up, I think
he's like 40, isn't he?
Yeah. But that's the thing. That was the ball game.
Yeah.
I mean, that was it. I mean, the score ended up being 6-2, but were the Capitals ever in that game? I don't think so.
I don't think so. And mentally, they're not in this series. They're not. And until they get a lead, hold the lead, maybe even come back if they lose the lead, they're not in this series. This game, this is sort of like the showdown in like Tombstone, Like they might as well just boil it down to that and just say, hey, look, we're going to play one more period here. If you don't get the lead, if Pittsburgh comes out of that period 2-0, I don't even know if you should play the series anymore. You don't have a chance. I hate to say that about a team, but if they don't come out with a win here, obviously they're done. But the point is, if they're losing in the first period, I have zero faith that they're going to come back and win this game if it's not by just 1 goal. If they're down by 2 goals in the first period, I worry that they'll come back at all.
Well, okay, and watching the Capitals in the first series against Toronto, Toronto stayed with them, which was surprising because most people thought Washington was going to blow them out. Braden Holtby did not really stand out like he was, the illegitimate brother of Carey Price. You know what I'm saying? Right. He was okay. He was pedestrian, but he didn't make a lot of great saves. The occasional one. Russ, 14 shots, 11 saves. He gets pulled after 3 goals. He gets pulled after the second period. They bring out Grubauer. And they're going to go with Holtby because they have to go with Holtby. But, this is the thing. He has not come up big at all in this playoffs.
No.
And last year, I remember a lot of people saying, it was the fact that Washington couldn't score against Pittsburgh. This year, it's Holtby's got to make the big save, and he's not making the big save.
I think that's part of it. They're probably still not scoring enough either. I mean, clearly, right? You have to score more to win. But I just look at it, and you can match this up on paper all you want all day long, right? Well, Washington's improved here, so they're better here in Pittsburgh, and Washington's better here, and they had the best record, and it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It's like none of this matters. If I have you psyched out, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think you're right. If they get up early, in Pittsburgh with that crowd going crazy. El Foldo. And this is the scenario. This is the nightmare scenario for Brian McClellan
and for Barry Trotz.
And for Barry Trotz. And say they lose in 4 or 5. I mentioned this on the show on Off the Post and late last week.
Well, then Russia will get Alex Ovechkin for the World Championships.
Well, but what do they do? What do they do in the off season if they fold against Pittsburgh? If they just completely fold? I mean,
they have to do a lot. They do.
Right. I mean, but do you address trading a major piece to shake up the chemistry?
I buy out Brooks Orpik. I say, you're slowing me down too much. I'm sorry. I know you're good in the locker room. Your time is done here. I try and bring back Alsner at a reasonable price. I tell Shattenkirk, take care. It didn't work out. Then
you have Dmitry Orlov as an RFA. You have Carlson as a
signing Orlov for sure. I'm signing him. I'm going to have to look to promote at least one more player. And
at some point they have to, maybe bring up Verana, let him play. Yep. Maybe they have a defensive prospect like Madison Bowie in Hershey who might be ready for the NHL. If not, I'm sure they have another defensive prospect. But yeah, I mean, certain amount of changes with this team are just going to naturally happen because Williams is going to go someplace, Oshie is going to go someplace.
Yep.
But it's unbelievable how they're awesome.
I don't think Verana's getting called up. He doesn't have a point for Hershey, so.
Well, I mean, I know they gave him a good look during the middle of the season. I don't know if he's.
I don't mean for next year. I mean for now. Like they're not calling him up.
Oh no! I'm talking about for next year. I'm talking about because what they have right now is what they have. I'm saying if they lose in 4 or 5 games, if it's
and actually, and Hershey just beat the Phantoms too, so that just remember that. So
right, yeah, but just. I mean, they have to have some sort of change of course. They can't stay with the team as it is, as they keep losing to Pittsburgh every year and say, we're just going to keep going back for more. Eventually, you have to try to shake things up to make things different.
You would think.
Yeah. So we'll see that game tonight. That'll be the showcase game, the only game on the schedule. Now, on the weekend, Russ, we don't have to do the draft lottery simulator anymore. We had the actual draft lottery, and it was funny because we got down to the final 3, and both of us said, we were talking to each other on Facebook, and both of us said it's going to be New Jersey, and it ended up being the New Jersey Devils with the first pick, Philadelphia with the second pick, Dallas with the third pick, and Colorado, who had the worst record in the league by leaps and bounds, they end up with the 4th pick. And the first thing I thought to myself was, if this was last year and it had been the Leafs who had finished 30th and they ended up with the 4th pick, there would have been rioting in the streets of Toronto.
Oh, yeah. But, the funny thing about Joe Sakic is you can never tell if he's happy or sad or anything. He had the same reaction to everything. 4th pick is still really good. Actually, in a way, there's no pressure on the 4th pick. First and second pick, most people know the way it's going to go. Now, of course, the team could change that, but I don't think there's too much pressure on those picks. 3rd pick, there's a lot of pressure. 4th pick, I think they're okay with that, and I think they could really help their team. It's a little unlucky, but nobody's as unlucky as the Islanders. I mean, they get eliminated last day of the season. They had the worst chance at the draft lottery and literally cash in on that worst chance and get the 15th. Now, I still think they'll get a good player, but it's just they can't get a break. It's interesting. Buffalo got 8th, and so that'll be interesting to see what they do with that when and if they get a GM. And I kid when I say that.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, and I'm just kidding about that, but still, I look at it. Arizona, where they get 7th.
Yeah,
I mean Arizona. I mean, this is where I don't understand Arizona. I wish I did. I just don't.
Well, I mean, we'll have about 7 weeks or 6 weeks to ponder this, but I was intrigued that Ray Shero was being interviewed on Hockey Central this afternoon, and afterward, Jeff Merrick, who we both know, was saying that there is some hint out there that the Devils may favor Heishier over Nolan Patrick.
Okay.
That I mean, and no, I like, again, I don't think they can go wrong either way. I think both of them are going to be good players. It's a question of which one is going to be better. And we didn't get a chance to see Patrick at the World Junior this year, but we did get a chance to see Heishier play for Switzerland, and he was very impressive. So
listen, the Flyers would love to get Nolan Patrick. He played with Ivan Provorov. They would love to have that connection again.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think both teams are going to get, players that they'll definitely be, intrigued and happy to have. As you said, Dallas with the 3rd overall pick. I mean, there's some forwards out there. I mean, this is the thing. They're relatively strong up the middle with Sagan and Spezza. They're not. Both of them are not.
Yeah, but Spezza is not going to be there much by the time this player comes up.
Well, I mean, he's got 2-3 years. Yeah. They're relatively strong on the wing, although you're losing Patrick Sharp. You have Jamie Benn. They may get Nikushkin back. They may not. I mean, there's who knows. But defensively is where you think that there will be a focus. But they have a lot of young defensemen. I mean, if there was a goaltender in this league who could step in as an 18 or 19-year-old, I think the Dallas Stars would take that. But
yeah, it's going to
probably. Right. It's probably going to be best player available for them, but
it could be a number of players. Like we could name 5 or 6 players that it could be. So they're the ones that really have it more difficult than the first 2 and then the 4th.
The other I was just gonna yes, the other thing that I'm gonna write about this today is that with the general outlook of this draft being you got a top 3, top 4, and then maybe there's a lot of middle ground, and teams will have differing players higher on their list than other teams will. Mm-hmm. It is going to be, to my mind, a recipe for teams who isolate themselves on 1 or 2 players being willing to trade up, because I don't think that the cost of trading up 7 or 8 slots is going to be as great as it has been in the past. And in my focus, with the Leafs are either going to draft 17th or 18th. If they see a defenseman out there at 10, at 9, if Liljegren falls, or Valimaki, or if they like Adam Foote's son, Cal Foote, and they're there, and it costs them Brendan Leipzig, it costs them a good prospect, I don't think they hesitate. I think they make that deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there'll be an opportunity for them, because if some team has a guy on the board that's not that guy and they feel like they could get their guy a couple spots later, they might do that. But yeah, I think that only starts after the 10th pick of the draft.
Right. Yeah. I don't think somebody's going to trade down from 4 to 18. I think we're talking about like in the middle of the first round. There's not a great deal of difference between one guy and another, and that's why, like, if a team thinks that there's a guy that fits perfectly in their system, then they'll make that move, and it won't be ridiculously costly. Now, outside of the draft lottery, some other news. It's fairly clear over the last few days that Ilya Kovalchuk wants to come back to the NHL. Kovalchuk was with St. Petersburg. He can come back to the Devils. The Devils sort of have a first right of refusal, sort of. I mean, if he signs with the Devils, they can, then he just goes back to them. But if he signs with another team, say he signs with Columbus, he has to get the permission of all 30 teams to sign off on that. Otherwise, he can't play for them. So more than likely what's going to happen is he signs with the Devils, and in the current state that the Devils are in right now, in a rebuilding mode, you wouldn't think that they would want to have Kovalchuk at 34 years old, that he might want to go someplace where he can, play the last few years of his career and maybe have a chance to steal.
I mean, is it crazy if they put him with Zacha and see if he could show Zacha the way? I mean, it's not totally crazy, but you never know. I'm not gonna say that they're definitely gonna sign and trade him.
No, it's not. It's not 100% certain. No, but I mean, the general consensus is that he's coming back not to play for the Devils, but to play for but he
wants to be close to New York. I heard that, and it's like, Ilya, newsflash, you don't really control your destiny right now.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to play for the Rangers or he wants to play for the Islanders, I mean, that would
Things
be
have to happen for that to happen. He can't just go there.
No, and
And that's my point.
it's going to have to be something that Ray Shero and whatever team he wants to go to will have to arrange. And in that instance, they hold that team hostage. And I'm certain at a certain point, if a team decides, this is not worth it. I mean, if he goes to the Rangers, if he wants to go to the Rangers and Shero says, okay, I want Buchnevich, the Rangers are going to say, go to hell.
Right.
And then Kovalchuk is stuck, either playing for New Jersey or, does he go back to the KHL? I mean, I don't know. And maybe he's alienated himself from that league. But, we'll see. That'll probably unfold in the next, I'd say, week or so. Now, one thing, you're probably going to see a slew of NHL, NHL signings of KHL players because KHL contracts expire on April the 30th. There are reports that the Sabres are on the verge of signing Victor Antipin, the KHL defenseman who.
But we've heard these reports before.
We've heard the reports before, and the thing was that when Tim Murray got fired, there was some, speculation that might have ended the chances of him signing with the Sabres because Murray was the guy who was trying to get him. But from all indications, that line of communication is still present. There were reports on Friday that the Swedish defenseman Kalle Rosen, who the Leafs and Blackhawks were pursuing, that the Leafs had won the favors of Kalle Rosen and that he would sign with the Leafs after the World Championships. The World Championships are starting this week, so we're talking a couple weeks. And Mike Babcock is heading to France to do some scouting for the World Championships. But the one situation that's sort of looking to be resolved in the next few days is the Buffalo general manager's search.
Well, it's a weird situation. They said they were going to have an exhaustive, quick, and really good search. It's turning out it's going to be quick. We knew that. We'll see what the results yield. I expect we're going to hear about it this week. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like, now you know where you're picking in the draft. You've got to review all your draft stuff. You got to review your whole organization, see who you're protecting, who you're not protecting. There's a lot of things to do.
Yeah, it's very chaotic in Buffalo right now. And off the hockey page, the Pagulas fired the Bills GM Doug Whaley and their entire scouting. They fired Bosma, they fired Tim Murray, they fired the amateur and pro scouting heads, but they didn't fire the scouts. And the thing is, more than likely to do is probably let go of some or all of their scouting staff after the NHL draft, because whoever they hire as a GM and a team president,
they may or may not do that. I mean,
right,
going by what he did in the NFL, it's possible. It wouldn't be advised, but it's possible.
Well, I mean, the thing is, in this instance, the difference is that they will hire the general manager and then they will make the decision. If whoever the general manager is may know some people who are scouting for them currently and say, I can work with these guys. But if that general manager wants to bring in his own people, then they have the ability that I think their contracts end at the end of June, like player contracts do, and they can just move on and bring in their own people. But the names that have been mentioned, and I'll just go through them quickly here. 3 with Pittsburgh Penguins tie-ins, and that always seems to be something with the Pagulas is a Pittsburgh tie-in. Doug Whaley was a Pittsburgh Steeler member of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, and they didn't hire him, but they kept him after they came in. But the three were Tom Fitzgerald, who's the assistant GM in New Jersey, Bill Guerin and Jason Botterill, who are assistant GMs with the Penguins.
Michael Fuda with the Kings. Yeah.
Michael Fuda from the LA Kings, Bill Zito from the Columbus Blue Jackets, all assistant GMs, Russ. None former NHL GMs.
Yeah, the one thing Pittsburgh and Buffalo, here's what they have in common. Both cities like to eat a lot. Both cities are blue-collar cities. both cities are football first cities. And so there's a lot, there's a lot of things that there's crossover, and these are the two places I visit most other than where I live in the world. And so this is where Pittsburgh and Buffalo definitely intersect for me.
Yeah, but I think the thing is that Pegula, most of his land holdings and things of that nature have been in Pennsylvania. I think a lot of his, a lot of his land that was opened up for fracking and things of that nature were located in Pennsylvania. So I think that's why he's more familiar with the Steelers and the Penguins and their championship pedigree than anything. It just, to my mind, and one of the reports that was a little confusing was that Russ Brandon was in charge of the search. Russ Brandon knows about as much about hockey as this cup. He's a PR guy. He's he's a corporate guy, and I'm not taking anything. I'm not saying making any or saying questioning his intelligence. I'm just saying he's not ingrained in hockey. He's, if anything, he knows a lot more about football because he worked for the Bills for a number of years. He was even their general manager for a while, but he knows nothing about hockey. Now, I'm sure the Pegulas have touched base with the NHL. The NHL will give them ideas of where they should go. But in the end, I think this team needs a team president, somebody who would be a buffer between them and the Pegulas, and a general manager who's allowed to build the team in their own way. But I'm getting the impression that there's not going to be a team president. It's going to be the Pegula's direct line to a general manager. And based on the list, Russ, it's a general manager who will be a first-time GM. This is John Ferguson Jr. and Toronto all over again.
Yeah, it's the whole thing's odd. It looks like not only would the Capitals not be calling up Verana, they're calling up Chandler Stevenson. Okay. So that's who's getting the call. He's got 2 points in 2 playoff games right now. So they're calling him. This is it. They're looking for some sort of change, something to start him up.
Did Alex Ovechkin think he was instituting change when he took a shot at Ron Hainsey's head?
I don't even know what to think about this team. I don't.
And this is the thing. I only saw it on replay, so I didn't see it in the flow of the game, and I can't tell just based on a replay whether it was purposeful or not. But taking into account the guy's credibility and his past history, I have no doubt that Alex Ovechkin was shooting his head. None. And to say this, Alex, if you wanted to affect the series, you should have shot at Sidney Crosby's head, because that's the only way that your team is going to stop him.
That's fair. Again, I don't know what to expect with that. I really don't know what to expect with Buffalo. I feel bad. Fans, if you're a fan of the Sabres and you're a fan of the Bills, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you.
The Bills, they had their draft, and 24 hours later, they fired every scout and their general manager. Welcome to the wonderful world of Buffalo sports.
Yep.
Okay, we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. We'll discuss the Caps and Penguins and any other news that's going to happen in the NHL. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.